This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
The following episode of Charlotte Cooks is brought to you by Central Piedmont Community College and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Charlotte Cooks. I am so excited about today's show because we have a returning guest. Chef Oscar Johnson is joining us from Jimmy Pearl's. Oscar, I'm so glad you come back today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back again.
I am
really
so
glad
happy
to be
you're here. So what are you going to make for us today?
So today we are making a tomato pudding. It is not very common. A lot of people don't really hear a lot about it, which is a lot of the reason why I wanted to make it for you guys today.
And you're going to tell us about where you took this and got a crowd reaction from it. And just while we're making it.
Okay.
And then you have another dish you're going to make for us too. What else are you going to make?
So we're going to make a Chermoula shrimp salad. It's a North African relish marinade that is really great with grilled seafood and vegetables. Something really refreshing for the summertime. So
that's
it'll be
great.
Awesome.
So let's get started. What are we going to make first?
All right, so we're going to start with our tomato pudding.
So what do you need to make tomato pudding?
So we need some stewed tomatoes, and then we have a combination of stewed and fresh, just to kind of give it a real nice texture. You want those fresh, in-season tomatoes to kind of come through, but you can totally use these tomatoes year-round.
Now, does it matter if they're red or green or?
Oh, yes, it does actually matter. Different tomatoes have different levels of acidity, and the beautiful thing about this dish is that it starts off very acidic from the fresh tomatoes, but as you cook it down with the spices and the sugar and the fresh herbs and the butter, it just really mellows out and everything just plays well nicely. And of course, with green tomatoes and stuff like that, more a little bit better for frying, pickling, things like that.
Right. So if you wanted to use yellow tomatoes, would it have the same appearance? Or, I mean, obviously it would be different, but the flavor would be off a little, you think?
That I don't know. I've only been familiar with using the vine-ripened tomatoes or either beefsteak tomatoes that kind of have a nice, like a little less on the firm side, just because they're really good for stewing. So we really want to use those tomatoes that are really good for stewing, have like a decent amount of sugar content to them.
Now you can buy these tomatoes rather than having to make them, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, but if you have the time, you can do a process where you concasse and you, which is you get your boiling water, you score the bottom, and you can peel them and dice them yourself. You're more than welcome to do that.
But most folks at home want to open a can and dump it in.
And keep it rolling.
And keep it simple.
And that's Southern cooking too. I mean, there are
is.
some people who have done the concasse method and everything, but at your convenience, we want to make this really easy for you.
And you know, there's a reason we have convenience, right?
There we go.
Let's use it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so what else do we need for tomato pudding?
All right, so we got some onions. These are some nice Vidalia onions, sweet, plays perfectly with this dish. This dish is going to be sweet and savory. It can also be strictly sweet because tomatoes are fruit, and you can treat this like a fruit cobbler. And we'll see that as we start to get cooking. So you can add all different types of aromatics to it. You can do garlic, but we're not going to do garlic. We're just going to focus on like the onion, thyme, the tomato, and just kind of building the flavors around the tomato. And we got some warm spices. We got some clove and cinnamon here.
Clove and cinnamon.
Yep.
Okay, these are already ground.
Yep, those are already ground. And we have some torn up sourdough bread.
Sourdough.
You can use whatever you want. You can use challah. You can use some of your nature's own bread that you have in the pantry that's left over.
Could you use like the regular loaf sandwich bread you have?
Yeah, for sure.
And you can use brioche, fancy bread?
You can do fancy bread. You can take leftover biscuits. You can use any type of bread that is going to soak up in the tomato stew. It'll work perfectly fine.
Yep. We got some brown sugar.
Yep. And so this is pretty much it. And like I said, there are so many different ways that you can do this. You can make it as sweet as you like. Some recipes don't even call for you to cook the tomatoes like right away. You can actually just mix all the tomatoes in a bowl with the sugar and everything, put it in the casserole dish with the bread, and you'll be good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and cut half of an onion, get it nice and small dice.
And you know, at home, if you guys really wanted to take a shortcut and not have to cut these things yourself, you can go to the salad bar in the grocery stores and buy your things already cut.
Food processor. I use the food processor all the time. Yep. And we'll just run our knife through it real good. You know, we just want to sweat these onions. We don't want to burn them.
Now, sweat, folks, at home means to cook them without browning. So that means your heat needs to be medium to medium low. The whole thing about this to sweat is to bring out the sugars and the juices of these onions. So you're just going to start warming up your pan.
I got my pan on medium heat. We're just going to melt our butter. And if I can get a wooden spoon or a spatula, one of them.
Got both.
That'd be good.
There you go.
Now, this is the the home cooking spoon.
Absolutely.
Right here.
I use wooden spoons a lot.
Oh yeah.
A lot. They're my preferred cooking utensil nowadays. I mean, I go back and forth between lots of different things, but nowadays I'm grabbing all my wooden stuff.
That's it. Yeah, one of my friends just gifted me a large wooden spoon from Ghana.
Oh,
Her husband's
nice.
from Ghana and gifted me one, and I still have yet to use it.
Yeah.
But I got to make a big pot of something to make it
Yeah,
worth
there
it.
you go.
So we're just melting our butter here. And while we wait on our butter, we're going to go ahead and dice these beautiful vine-ripened tomatoes.
You don't have to skin or seed them?
Not at all.
All right.
Not at all. We've got the stewed
I
tomatoes
like
here.
this recipe more and more.
Yep, there we go. And we're just going to remove this little top here. We don't want those in the pudding. And these can just be rough chopped because, like I said, this is going to cook down real nicely. For a little science lesson, tomatoes are angiosperms, and that means that they have a seed on the inside of them. So, like I said, with this recipe, throwing some people off and not really knowing like what tomato pudding really is treated like fruit. So don't stray away from it.
So
That's
Oscar,
it.
tell us about when you would make tomato pudding, because you said you guys made it at different times?
Yeah, so my mom, I asked her recently because I've had it so much throughout my childhood and adulthood, and she would always tell me, or she told me that it was a special treat. You know, we had some special guests coming over. It was holiday time. We had just got done like frying some chicken or some pork chops or some smoked meats, some beautiful sides like lima beans and some of the Southern classics. And so that's when we knew tomato pudding would be on the table. We had special
good.
guests and family coming over. So it was just always one of those like random dishes. No one really announced when they were making it. It would just end up on the
When it
table.
showed up,
And it was a treat. Everyone knew it was a treat. Yep, so we're going right in with our onions. And like I said, guys, we are sweating these onions. We are not getting too crazy with them. Yeah, this dish is super special. This is what I like to do with my cooking, is just kind of experimenting and kind of bringing some of those older recipes back to the forefront, especially with the platform that I have now.
Absolutely.
Like, it's very important to
Absolutely.
represent, you know, the roots of Southern cooking in all different regions, especially Virginia.
You know, we're unmasking the secrets here. This is how you make them. Nothing is really difficult, but it's so full of flavor because we're using good ingredients.
That's it.
Really good ingredients.
Yep, and like I said, tomatoes, like I said, it's the best to use them when they're in season, but for sure, if it's colder outside and you're trying to warm your belly, you can totally just do 100% stewed tomatoes. And if you do happen to find some good out-of-season tomatoes, feel free to use them. In some hotter regions, the tomato season is shorter. But like I said, you get your hands on a really good tomato, nice juicy tomato that you can break down and cook into a beautiful stew. Like this is great. There's no true origin story that I found about tomato pudding just yet, but just pretty much coming from Freetown up to Bertie County, North Carolina, this was a dish that was served at diners and buffets, and some people just got confused. They were like, is it a dessert? Is it a side? But however you like to incorporate it into your meal, I feel like you should just kind of go with that. Okay, so we got our onions sweating real nicely here. We're gonna go ahead and go in with the fresh tomatoes. And you can cut these, not super large, but you can kind of cut them anywhere between a small dice or like a medium or like chunks like this. Because if you like cobbler, like I like chunks of peach.
Chunks of fruit, yeah.
Chunks of apples. So I'm treating these tomatoes with love. I'm treating them just like the apple and the more popular cobbler, you know, variations.
And cobbler is a very, very quintessential Southern dish.
Yes, it is. So we've got our stewed tomatoes that we're going to go ahead into the pan with. And we're going to go ahead and cook these in with the fresh tomatoes, the butter, and the nicely sweated onions. And so this is where we're getting ready to start building our stewed tomato, like our
the
tomato
wonderful
stew.
flavors,
Yep. And so we're just going to crank it up just a little bit because we want to cook this water out, and we want this to get, you know, pretty thick before it goes in the oven and before we add in the bread and the spices and everything like that. So in March, we did wine and food in Charleston.
Down in Charleston,
Yep.
yeah.
So me and my
I saw
partner.
you were going down there. I was wondering what you were going to do.
Oh yeah.
So what did you do?
So we were at Peculiar Pig Farm in Dorchester, and we did a live fire cooking event.
Nice.
People bought tickets, and there was just all different types of charcuterie and live fire cooking. We did a whole hog. We did some amazing sides. We used some beautiful produce from some local farmers. And so we were pretty much all set with everything, and we had some tomatoes laying around, and we had some bread laying around. And so my friend Marvin Ross asked, he was like, hey, what would you like to make? Would you like to make something else? And I was like, yeah, let's make tomato pudding. So same question, what is tomato
What's
pudding? I
tomato
haven't
pudding?
heard that.
Yeah.
So long story short, we made it and it didn't last very long. And we actually had some people who sent me emails of their recipes that they tried at home.
Oh,
And so some
nice.
people actually took it home and
Very
tried
nice.
it. I wasn't expecting
Isn't
it.
that fun?
Yeah,
Isn't
it
that
was
fun?
great.
I always
It was
like it when
great.
people write into me saying, hey, I tried your recipe from Charlotte Cooks. I've actually had people send me pictures of what they've made before, and it's just so much fun when people respond.
So we're going to go ahead and let these do their thing. I think we can start on our bouillon for our shrimp
Okay.
salad. So for
Okay.
this chermoula is a North African relish or a marinade that is used in Tunisian cooking, Moroccan cooking. And the thing I love about it, I use it a lot. And I know I have some friends that are going to be watching this and they're going to say, yeah, Oscar loves this chermoula. I love it on raw oysters, char-grilled oysters. I love to marinate my fish with it. I love to put it on a grilled piece of protein. Marinating vegetables, it just has a lot of flavor involved with it, with spices and the citrus and the smokiness from the paprika that goes in it. Like, it's just so many exciting flavors associated with a chermoula. So we're going to do a nice chilled shrimp salad, something really refreshing for the summertime, and this is how we're going to start building some flavor.
Okay.
So we got some water going here. I'm going to add a little pinch of salt here.
All right.
And this is like a little junior version of a court bouillon. You could throw like white wine in this, certainly, but we're just gonna throw some aromatics in there, just enough to season that shrimp. And we're gonna go right in with it.
And then at home, those people are wondering, what are aromatics? Because you hear Chef talking about all the time about using aromatics. Carrots, onions, celery, and that's pretty much aromatics, things that are gonna add flavor and beautiful aromas. And you know, most cooks will start off with carrots, onions, and celery for just about everything.
Yep.
And there's a reason.
The fundamentals.
Yep, there's a reason. It's because it tastes good, it adds wonderful flavor and sweetness and complexity rather than just using plain old salted water.
And I've got these vegetables cut up nice and small for a maximum extraction of flavor. So that's why we like to mince things, you know. So we like to get the full bodied.
And these aren't going to be served, so it doesn't matter if just chopped up.
Yeah,
They
at
don't
home,
have to be uniform or anything.
There we go.
Okay.
At home, if you're making a stock or a broth or something like that, you can still cut small pieces, but they don't have to be neat. They don't have to be any kind of way. You can leave your onions with the skin on because it gives it a nice color. You get all the nutrients from those vegetables. So we got some fresh thyme. You can use whatever you have on hand. You can use bay leaf. You can use oregano. You could just use any fresh herbs that you have at home. So we're going to add a little salt to our tomatoes while we let that court bouillon do its thing. And I like to season in layers. This is definitely essential, you know, especially like the way I like to cook. Just layers of flavor, even in a simple dish like this. So I was asked what makes this special. And like I said, just most of the origins of Southern cooking are low and slow.
Yeah.
And you want to build those flavors. So
Low
here,
and slow and fried in grease.
that's it. That's it. Nothing wrong with it. So I got some cloves. I got about a quarter of a teaspoon in there. And I'm going to go right in with my cinnamon. And this is all to your liking, too. Of course, there's a little goes a long way. But if you're just crazy about cinnamon, why not?
I love cinnamon.
Yeah. So check this out. We've got almost a little bit of a stew going here. It's thickening.
Nice and thick.
I believe tomatoes have pectin in them, correct?
I'm sure they have some level of pectin in
Yeah,
them.
so that's just the pectin. There's no flour, there's no cornstarch or anything in here. This is just all the natural sugar is starting to cook out from the stewed and the fresh tomatoes and the onions as well too. So we're gonna add some brown sugar. You can use white sugar as well. So one last touch to our bouillon over here. We're just gonna throw in some fresh lemon.
Yes, that's
Lemon
the
and
acid you're looking
seafood.
for.
Oh yeah. Lemon and seafood, we all know how we feel about that. That definitely takes it to another level. Gives it a nice little pop of flavor.
Absolutely.
We're gonna let that rock. We want that to reduce down just a little bit more, but not too much because we still want that bread to be able to soak up all that beautiful liquid in there. And like I said, guys, it's gonna look like a cobbler and it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be something that you definitely wanna try. So we got our bouillon going here.
And we got some ice water here.
Yep, so we're gonna stop the cooking process. We just want these shrimp to be nice and beautiful pink. And then when the shrimp starts to kind of curl up, that's how you know it's done. We're gonna just go in with the shrimp. And notice I did not strain this, but it is perfectly fine. You can get some of the vegetables in there. That'll go right in that salad. It's all good. We don't waste anything. So that'll be a nice touch.
And how long will they take to cook?
Anywhere between 5 to 7 minutes. More on 7-minute side. Our shrimp are pretty much looking like they're ready to come out of this water. So we got all the thyme and
Ooh, look
everything
at
just
all
kind
that.
of sitting on it. And we can kind of pick through it once we get it in the ice water. And the great thing about this tomato pudding, we just got it rolling over there, and it's totally fine because we're not cranking up the heat on it. And it doesn't bake long. It's only 20 minutes. You just want the bread to crisp up. It's going to soak up all that liquid. And
You're looking for it to get bubbly and golden brown on top?
That's it.
Okay.
Just like a fruit cobbler. It says that in the recipe. So when you guys get the recipe and you're trying to figure out what it's supposed to look like, bubbly cobbler. Just like peach, blackberry. Another talking point, we have the dumplings. You can make dumplings like how you would do blackberry dumplings or dumplings on top of an apple cobbler situation. You can totally do that with the tomatoes as well.
Very nice.
So that's just the great thing. Like I said, I love talking about Southern cooking because there's just so many different things. Like even though there are recipes are guidelines.
Yes.
So you can literally just manipulate them however you want to and just make it your own original thing.
Understand your ingredients.
Yep. All right, so we've got our tomatoes looking really, really good. I got a couple of thyme sprigs that we're going to add. We're not going to need a whole bunch. And like I said, there are recipes where literally you can just do all the sweet stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the cinnamon, the cloves, you can do the brown sugar. Some recipes, some of the old school recipes have vanilla extract.
Oh, really?
And they do, and they literally, truly treat it like a cobbler. So this thyme is just going to be finely chopped. And we're just going to add this in here just for that nice little floral component. And this thyme is just going to tie everything together. And this is what makes it, that it brings that savory out along with the onion. And this is a little bit. We don't need a whole lot of it. This is some sourdough that I have from Duke's Bread. They are here locally here in Charlotte. So we've got some butter melted. So we're just going to put some in our casserole dish to start off. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. You can take the bread and you can mix it in a bowl if you want to. You can toast the bread if you would like.
Okay.
But since it's going to get toasted anyway, we're going to throw just a little bit in here. Just a little bit on this bottom layer. Just going to work that in with the butter. So we're going to take the rest of these, throw those in, start soaking up some of that. I think I kind of do this a little bit different each time I make the recipe. Just kind of how I feel.
Just like Grandma did.
Yeah, just going with the mood and how I feel and like how I want to go about it. So
Exactly.
So we're gonna throw this in, give that a nice little stir. And like I said, you don't want to cook all that liquid out because you want to have
something for the bread.
There you go. And look how beautiful that is. You see the little leaves of thyme in there, give it a little bit of color.
It's beautiful.
And we're just gonna take these breadcrumbs, or these torn pieces of bread, put that right over the top.
So you want to have some of the bread chunks on the top.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit more butter. And so like the butter and the sugar and everything, that's the part that people would say will make it a dessert.
Ah.
Because when you do this and you bake it, it just really, like I said, it bakes up like a nice fruit cobbler. And we're all set. You can also sprinkle just like a little bit more sugar on top to give it a nice crust if you would like. Just kind of depends on how you want to go about it.
How sweet you want it.
Yeah, how sweet you want it. You can just literally do that. But this is ready to go in the oven.
Okay.
400 degrees, about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Good to go. All right, so now into our chermoula.
Let's do our chermoula about
All
that.
right. So chermoula is just consistent of toasted spices, some fresh herbs, and a little bit of heat.
And what spices are we using?
So we're using some smoked paprika, we've got some coriander, we've got some cumin, and we've got some chili flakes. So we're gonna start with some curly leaf parsley. Just grab a nice little handful. Just kind of rip them all right off the stem. And we've got some cilantro. So we're just gonna run our knife through here real nicely. Probably about 3 or 4 times.
You said this is a North African dish.
Yes.
And it's a lot like the chimichurri sauce that you find in the South American.
Very similar. Very, very similar. It's just different ingredients. And of course, like I said, the origins are a little bit, different. Like I said, you have different regions that are spread across. In goes our bowl. In we're gonna go with our red chili flake. You can turn the heat up on this thing if you want, but this is about half a teaspoon.
Okay.
And we're gonna go in with a little bit of the paprika. It's like my favorite part of it. I love working with paprika.
Do you?
Oh yeah. This is the coriander, which will kind of, coriander is the seed of the cilantro,
Right.
so definitely goes
We're
hand
using
in
a whole
hand.
plant there.
There we go. And we got our cumin in. And so these are just the spices. So we're just gonna let that rest in that bowl while we get the rest of our knife work done. So I got a beautiful shallot that's gonna give this dish a nice little bite as well.
They're quite strong in their flavors, aren't they?
Yes, they are. You just gotta be careful. Just gotta know what you're doing.
Yes.
Yep. So we're gonna get this a real nice mince. I've even thrown ginger in this before.
Oh, really?
I love ginger. I use ginger a lot. Ginger definitely gives it a real nice kick to it as well. And we've got our shallots ready to go. And then next we're gonna go ahead and start zesting our citrus and juicing our citrus. So we're gonna go in with our lime. Use as much as you like. I like a lot of lime, especially like in my guacamole, different things like that.
Yeah.
I really like that lime flavor.
Yeah. It's, lime and lemon, you think that they're being citrus and they're interchangeable, but seriously, there are some dishes you just don't want lime on, and there are some dishes you don't want lemon on.
Yep. So I'm just gonna cut these in half, and we're gonna go in with the juice. And we got some red wine vinegar, and it's not a lot of red wine vinegar. I just really like to use that as an extra layer of acidity.
It's a different kind of acid.
Yes. And this is infused. This is a special red wine that I've had.
Did you make it?
Yes.
Oh, wow, good.
Yes, this is
Good
a
for
really
you.
good red wine. And lastly, I almost forgot about our garlic. So we're just gonna take about 2 cloves. I wanna smash it down. And garlic is gonna give it a real nice, mild punch in there as well. This is a good sharp knife, so we didn't have to mince that garlic for too long. So I'm gonna bring this over here. I'm gonna bring that bowl to us. And then lastly, just to make this more of a salad, we're gonna do we're gonna dice some cucumber. And so since we've already used some tomato, I've left the tomatoes out of this, but you can certainly do some cherry tomatoes, some real nice heirloom tomatoes, dice those in there as well. And we're gonna go ahead in with our oil. So we're just gonna add just enough to make this a real nice sauce, relish.
So you're not going to add all that oil.
We're not gonna add all of it. You don't want it to be too oily.
Now, what kind of oil are you using?
So this is some extra virgin olive oil.
Okay.
You can also use a lighter weight oil.
Could you use like a regular salad oil or vegetable oil?
Totally.
Okay. It just won't have any oil flavors.
There you go.
Because remember, your oils will impart flavors. And so if you've got a nice, strongly flavored oil, you're going to have that flavor in your marinade. So if you don't want that, choose
Just
a neutral
leave it out.
oil.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is good. This is going to be just enough to cover the shrimp. Got that working in there. You see how the paprika kind of comes through and the chili flake. We're just going to do a real nice dice on the cucumber. And you can cut these cucumbers however you want. If you want to do half moons, I'm just going to dice these today. So lastly, we're just going to finish this with some salt. And we're going to toss in our shrimp. And you can cut this shrimp up. You can split it in half. I like to do it whole because I love shrimp.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just throw those in whole. And we're just going to give this a nice little toss.
Oh, look at that. Now that would be superb if we let that marinate for a while too, right?
Yes. Yeah. So in the recipe, you can serve this immediately, but I recommend allowing this to chill for at least 30 minutes to an hour or overnight. Yeah. Overnight's even better. You know the old saying, you let something stay overnight. Even if you're reheating something the next day, the spaghetti tastes better the next day.
Oh, doesn't it though?
But this shrimp salad is perfect. We're gonna go straight to plating. Look how beautiful that is.
It is gorgeous. And you're using a slotted spoon, so you don't get a whole lot of marinade in there, so it's not going to swim in the serving bowl.
There you go.
It's just going to be a nice coating. Oh, that's beautiful.
Beautiful portion there.
That's beautiful. And then let's talk about tomato pudding.
All right. And we've got our beautiful tomato pudding. And this is one that I have previously assembled for you guys, letting it kind of marinate for a little bit. And here's the finished product. Literally looks like a cobbler. And I think we're ready to serve it up on a plate,
Spoon that baby up. Yes,
all right,
sir.
Let's go. All right, so you get a nice little corner. We like the corners. Look at that.
Everybody loves
That
the
is
corners. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Look
how
that.
It just comes together with all that bread. The bread is such a crucial.
It's beautiful.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna get a little bit more on there for you. There you go.
Beautiful. Oh, and it smells divine.
Yep, and that's it. That's tomato pudding. And like I said, guys, this goes great with fried foods. If you like, with fried chicken, a nice little Sunday supper, a great side dish to go. Or like I said, this could be dessert. Scoop some ice cream on top, minus the onions and everything else. But if you have a different recipe that doesn't have the onions and everything,
use your onion
ice cream goes great. Onion ice cream, hey, that might be on another episode. We might have to try that.
Alrighty, people. Oscar, thank you for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Here is the tomato pudding, and this is a beautiful North African dish. Anything you put on your table featuring these dishes is sure to bring the crowds running. Pleasure?
Pleasure.
It's always fun to have you here on the show. And thank you for sharing these recipes with us, because these recipes have heritage.
Yes, they do. Totally. That's what I'm all about.
We really like it. And you're over in 7th Street right now, aren't you?
Yes. So Jimmy Pearl's is located at the 7th Street Public Market, 224 East 7th Street.
Okay.
We are specializing in fish, oysters, and pork.
Okay.
Our Uncle Gene's fish sandwich is a crowd favorite.
Yeah.
We're open 6 days a week. And so you can find us on Instagram. We have our staple menu items, but you'll be surprised. We have a sweet potato bread pudding for dessert.
Oh, wow. Great.
So if you guys want to come by, come check us out.
Okay.
Definitely appreciate it.
Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Send me an email at pamela.roberts@cpcc.edu. You can watch this show and past episodes on PBS Charlotte Passport, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Coming up on the next episode of Charlotte Cooks, I want to ask you, what does Shakespeare, medieval England, and the Gulf Coast all have in common? Is it a drink? Is it a pudding? See how this dish has evolved, and I'll show you on the next episode. Thank you for watching this episode of Charlotte Cooks.
A production of PBS Charlotte.